All right, we are live today. Welcome, everybody. This is the Chief Reaction Podcast, your NFL podcast, your information for all things NFL moving forward. This is episode number 1. A couple things to take care of, business ideas, business things to take care of. First, all of these will be posted on our YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is called the Chief Reaction Podcast. You can find us there. We will try to upload the videos the same night that they are streamed. So you can find those late Tuesday or maybe first thing Wednesday morning. Hopefully, that is the goal. Second thing, if you go to YouTube, you can please like and subscribe to the channel. Leave any comments for questions or things that you would like to see on the podcast moving forward. Feel free to leave them in the comment section there as well. I will try to answer each comment as I can get to. So for now, you can expect that. Basically, just give a brief overview of the podcast. We are trying to cover the NFL as a whole. I am a Chiefs fan, so I will cover it a little bit from the Chiefs perspective, but I'm pretty sure I can do it without being super biased. You can call me out on my bias if you see it. Would love to hear your feedback. Again, you can leave comments in the Twitch channel or in the YouTube section, whatever works best for you. Each episode will consist of some matchups of the games. We'll look at the most important ones, or most crucial ones, or the most interesting ones, whatever kind of we want to look at. We'll also talk about a little bit of the game breakdowns, players to watch, matchups to watch, and also some predictions as well. We'll cover various news as needed, and we'll also talk a little bit of fantasy football, especially if we get questions from that. And that brings me to the next thing. We will do mailbag episodes. We can do them as bonus episodes throughout the week. You can email your questions to thechiefreaction@gmail.com. You can also submit them through Twitch, through the DMs. You can DM me, or we'll leave them in the comment section, and we might just put them all into an episode so everybody can see what your question was and what I give the answer to. Also, if you're wanting to be on the show, I'm more than happy to have guests on the show. You can email me. It's probably the best way, and we can discuss getting you on the show, what that would look like, and what would work best for both the show and for you. So all of that is available. You can follow me on Twitter @ChiefsCrazy. I have it shown here on the screen. Or you can follow me here on Twitch, twitch.tv/mil_time. And that's where the podcast will be going for now. You can also turn on notifications to be notified of when the podcast starts. So, having said all that, we'll get down to business now. So, as the title says, we are breaking down Thursday Night Football Game 1 of the season. NFL football is finally here, folks. It is finally here, the moment that football fans around the world have been waiting for. Week 1. We haven't had any preseason games to even get our appetites wet. This is the first week, and I am so pumped for this. And the first game is a good one. Should be a good one. Chiefs Texans shouldn't let us down as far as excitement goes. We'll break down that a little bit later. In just a little bit. And then the other half of the podcast will also go into playoff predictions. So we'll look at the playoffs. I did a little playoff predictor, and we'll break down what that looks like and kind of make our own Super Bowl predictions, and see where that ends up at. So, so first things first, Chiefs Texans. So I think either team has a chance. I really do think the Texans have a chance to win this. I would say that the game is probably like 60-40 or maybe 65-35 in the Chiefs' favor here. A couple of things that I'll start with the Texans. A couple of things that need to go right for the Texans as far as giving them a chance to win the game. The first is to keep Deshaun Watson upright. That offensive line, as you saw in the playoff game, was a little porous. They were allowing the Chiefs' defensive line to get through, the pass rush to get through, even on four-man rushes. And throughout the season, you could see that Deshaun Watson was taking plenty of hits. So one of the things that they have to do is protect Watson at all costs. Yes, he is mobile, but they have to keep him upright. He can make plays out of the pocket, and that's great. But they have to keep him upright. So they have to mitigate Chris Jones. They have to mitigate Frank Clark, and the whole defensive front seven, and they'll have a better chance at winning the game. Second thing they need to do is to actually make big plays down the field. Will Fuller is healthy. Kenny Stills should be healthy. And Brandon Cooks, they're all healthy. And they are all speedy receivers that will stretch the field. They need big plays. They need 20-plus plays, 20-plus play yards in the passing game. David Johnson is a new weapon. We don't really know what he's going to bring. He's going to bring a steady hand in the backfield. But their bread and butter is going to be those 25-yard passing plays down the field to really break open games. Will Fuller is, I think, the key out of those three in the group. If you look at past stats with the Texans, they'll say that when Will Fuller is off the field, they do much worse. On the field, when he's on the field, Deshaun Watson is way more successful. They score way more points, and the offense as a whole is just more efficient. So keeping Will Fuller healthy and the whole wide receiving core healthy is going to be pretty key. The next thing that they need to do is win the turnover differential, and I think this is going to be the key for most teams going into playing against the Chiefs. The Chiefs don't generally turn the ball over. Ever since Shady was given the stop handing the ball off to them in the last half of the season, the Chiefs just didn't turn the ball over. We don't fumble a lot. We don't throw a lot of interceptions. But they have to take advantage of those one or two that happen. You need extra possessions when playing against the Chiefs. You have to get those extra possessions to combat the high-powered offense that can come at you from all different ways. So if they win the turnover battle, that'll go to a long ways towards winning the game. Second, so that's what the Texans for sure need to do. They need to do those three things: protect Watson, big plays down the field, and win the turnover battle. The three things that need to go right for the Chiefs. The first is the O-line needs to be solid. They need to be at least average or above average. Watt and Merciless, J.J. Watt and Whitney Merciless can really wreak some havoc on that defensive front for the Texans. And the Chiefs' offensive line is a little bit of patchwork right now. The two guard spots, in my opinion, are a little bit, sketchy. They weren't our strong suit last year. We did get Kelechi Osemele to replace LDT, at least for this year. But the two tackles are our strong spots. Now, J.J. Watt can rush from the inside or the outside. So if he winds up inside against those guards, we may have a little bit of a problem there. But the Chiefs' O-line has to be above average to keep Patrick Mahomes upright and to keep at least a little bit of the running game going, just to offset the passing game and the potency of that. The second thing that needs to go right for the Chiefs is the pass rush. For sure, the pass rush. Frank Clark has to be a factor, and Chris Jones have to be a factor. If you let Deshaun Watson sit back in the pocket, he will cut you apart. He will run for extra yards. And so they have to, A, keep him contained, and B, actually, get 2 or 3 sacks in the game. I think that can... The other thing that it does is it mitigates the defensive backfield and the lack of depth there for the Chiefs. We're strong at the Chiefs are strong at safety, at the safety position with Tyrann Mathieu, Daniel Sorensen, Juan Thornhill. Those group of guys are really good. But after Charvarius Ward at corner, it's a little unknown with Brashad Breeland on the sideline. We have a couple rookies and a couple of second-year players, Antonio Hamilton, Rashad Fenton, who are looking to replace Brashad Breeland for the first 4 games while he's suspended. So there's a question of, can the Chiefs secondary hold up? Now, if you have a good pass rush, that helps offset the lack of depth that we have there on the pass rushing side of the defensive backfield. So if the pass rush can be effective, it can really change the complexity of the game. I don't think that the Chiefs cornerbacks right now line up very well with the speed of Fuller and Cooks and Stills. So that to me is a place where maybe the front 7 can change the game in the Chiefs' favor. And the last thing, like I said, with the Texans, they won the big plays down the field, and I think that's where the Chiefs really have to focus, is mitigating the amount of chunk plays that the Texans have. If that's playing a cover 3, a cover 4, just to kind of get people on the back half, then I'm fine with that. But I don't know that we can run with the Texans and their wide receiving core. They're super fast, super speedy, and it's just going to be a tough ask. So if we can limit the chunk plays to 3 or 4 for the game, that's a win for the Chiefs. If they get like 5, 6, 7 chunk plays, then they're usually scoring points in that drive. It's just going to lead to a harder game for the offense, requiring the offense to score more points. Now, can the Chiefs offense go toe-to-toe with the Texans offense in a shootout? Yes. Is that what the Chiefs want to do? No. Nobody wants a shootout. You want to be up by 10 at half. You want to be up by 10 going into the third quarter. Again, that's just in a perfect world. Now, I have complete faith that Patrick Mahomes can come back from that. And we saw last year when the Chiefs and Texans played in Houston, the Texans came back. So you can't sleep on either of these teams and these offenses. And you have to limit those big plays to shut down, make them grind out 10, 12 play drives. Both of these offenses are predicated on going downfield, exploiting some weakness that they see, and getting those yards in huge plays. So, key person to watch in the game. One for each team. The one I would say for the Chiefs is Tyrann Mathieu. He has, I think he's going to be the big X factor as far as mitigating some big plays down the field. He's also going to be a X factor in making sure everybody's aligned. He's the defensive backfield, making sure they have their assignments filled out, make sure they are covering the guys that they're supposed to. He is the field general in the defensive backfield for the Chiefs. He's also probably going to be asked to cover the slot with the question on our Chiefs secondary. So he's going to have to play a big factor in both the run game. He'll play a factor in the run game, but most importantly in the pass game. So look for him and see. If you don't notice him, then he's not having an impact, but he will have an impact. On the Texans side of the ball, who's going to have the most impact is the wide receiver group of the Texans. I know I've been harping on this almost this whole time, but with the speed of Stills, Fuller, and Brandon Cooks, those guys can stretch the field, and they need to have a bunch of yards to keep up with the Chiefs' offense. The other half of that is they also have to be on the field. Cooks, Fuller, and Stills all have injury history. So if one of them goes down, then their offense is already affected because they can't stretch the field on every single play, where they could rotate in almost each one at a time, or have 2 of them on the field at a time. Whereas if you go down to just Stills and Fuller or just Stills and Cooks, then you have less of that deep threat on every single down. Now, I don't think the Texans are trying to look to be a pass-first offense. I think they're going to want to make sure David Johnson has his touches. But just the idea of having two of those people, two of their receiving core on the field at the same time, all the time, is a huge deal for the Texans. So look for them to make big plays. Look for them to stay on the field and stay healthy. I don't wish any bad health against anyone, but it is a concern for this Texans wide receivers group. My one little fantasy tidbit is that I think fantasy football tidbit is I think Will Fuller is probably a high number 3 wide receiver or low number 2 wide receiver this week. He's going to get big plays. He's going to get the touches. He's going to get the targets. In the offense, it looks like he's the primary target going forward this year with DeAndre Hopkins kind of out of the picture. So in a 10-team league, it looks like Will Fuller could be that number 2, really probably a number 3 receiver, but maybe even a number 2 production out of that wide receiver spot. My prediction. What's the prediction for the game? I am predicting the Chiefs are going to win. It's going to be 34-24. And there's a couple things that I will highlight as to why. One, if it's a shootout, I think that generally favors Kansas City. I think their defense is just a little bit better than the Texans, and not much, but I would say just a little bit better at this time. The real determining factor, I think, is Andy Reid. Andy Reid coming off a bye or the first game of the season, when he has time to prepare for a team, he dissects them, and it's a bloodbath usually. Case in point was Chiefs Patriots a couple years ago. We went into their house and dropped, I believe, almost 40 points, with Kareem Hunt just going nuts. Andy Reid, when given time to prepare, wins more games than he loses. It's not even close. I don't trust Bill O'Brien in the same way. Like, I don't think that Bill O'Brien's going to come out and just have this successful game plan. I think he doesn't manage games super well, and that's evidenced a little bit by the playoff game last year. But I just don't trust Bill O'Brien the same way I trust Andy Reid. And I think the creativity, the lack of preseason game tape helps. All of that helps the Chiefs. You can't see what the Chiefs are playing in. They didn't have any game film to show what kind of plays they're running. And I think that benefits the Chiefs the most. So I am saying Chiefs 34 and the Texans 24. All right. So with that said, we are going to move on to our playoff predictor. So I used this website. This is playoffpredictors.com. I went through, this is all 17 weeks, and predicted generally what I thought was going to happen. Now, I will say one caveat to this. As you're looking, I'll go over the division winners and losers. But one thing I will say is this is more of a confidence ranking. I think that all these teams are going to do exactly this? No. In fact, I think the NFC is going to be a lot closer than what I have it. Most of these games are 50-50. They could go either way. And with fans not being in the stands for most of these teams, and it's just piped in crowd noise, the home advantage for some of these teams is taken away. Teams like the Chiefs, teams like the Seahawks, teams, those types of teams that really enjoy the crowd noise, it really affects the game. It's actually going to be mitigated just a little bit. So I'm going to go through these. Again, this is just a confidence ranking, who I think will do the best, not necessarily exactly what their record will be. So in the first prime example is here in the AFC North. Do I think I have the Steelers and Ravens both at 12-4. I had the Browns at 8-8 and the Bengals at 3-13. Do I think the Steelers are going to finish ahead of the Ravens? Probably not. The Ravens seem to have a better skill position group. They seem to have a better defense. So in all of those cases, it seems like the Ravens are set up. The Ravens also have a little bit of an easier schedule. The AFC North generally has an easy schedule, but I think the Ravens have a pretty easy schedule. So I think the Ravens will actually finish ahead here. But in this model, I ended up with the Steelers just ahead just because of the division win. So, and my other thing that I was a little concerned with is how many times I picked the Titans. I have the Titans winning their AFC South at 12-4, and I had the Texans at 11-5, the Colts at 8-8, and the Jags at 1-15. Again, I think the Titans are going to win the division. I think the Texans are going to be next. I think the Titans have a superior defense. They have a defense that complements their run game, their run-first offense. And I think that will lead to them winning a lot of games. It'll be low-scoring games, but they should win a lot of games. The Texans, I can see the Texans and the Colts actually flipping spots. I think the Texans are the better team out of the two, mainly because I've seen Phillip Rivers in our division, in the Chiefs division for a long time, and I'm not impressed with how he's been playing the last few years. So I don't think that Phillip Rivers is an upgrade to Jacoby Brissett, just one for one. So I think the Texans should finish ahead of the Colts. I could see the Colts just doing really well. They have a lot of good young players. Their offensive line is really good. They have some nice defensive players like Darius Leonard in the middle of that defense. So I could see them doing well. I just think that some of the teams that they play are just going to be better than them. So one of the worst divisions that I have planned out here is the AFC East, only rivaled by the NFC East, actually. So the AFC East, I have the Bills finishing just ahead of the Patriots by a game, and then the Dolphins, and then the Jets rounding that out. I think the Bills have the best team personnel-wise. I think the Patriots have the best coach, and I think the best coach will win them more games than what is probably given credit to them. The only downside is that they lost like 9 starters who just opted out for COVID. So, and a lot of them are key defensive players and key offensive players. So, what they're left with is like Cam Newton, Julian Edelman, and then the rest of the team is kind of how I see it. I have the Dolphins at 5-11. I think they were like 6-10 last year. They could maybe pull off a couple more games here and there against some teams. It just depends, if Tua plays or if it's just Ryan Fitzpatrick. I don't have a lot of trust in Ryan Fitzpatrick winning games. He's going to win a few just by what seems like a fluke. They're going to find some ways to win games, but other than that, I think they're going to be a below 500 team for this year. AFC West, I had the Chiefs at 14-2, Broncos at 9-7, Raiders at 8-8, and the Chargers at 5-11. I don't think the Chiefs will go 14-2. I think they'll probably drop. They haven't lost a division game in a couple years, but I think this is the year that they could. The reason I say that is Drew Lock and the Broncos look to be the part, but we haven't seen a full season of Drew Lock. So if Drew Lock takes the next step in his sophomore year, they could be really good. Their defense is solid. Everyone's pretty healthy and back. And I think they're motivated. And this would be year 2 under Vic Fangio, a defensive-minded head coach. So they could drop a game there. Again, I think the home advantage that the Broncos would have normally against the Chiefs is not going to be there. The same goes for the Broncos coming to Arrowhead. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I would probably bet the Chiefs to go 12-4 just because I'm a little more conservative, but that's probably where I would shoot them at. I think the Broncos and the Raiders could be vying for that 7th and 6th spots in the playoffs. Again, I think it kind of comes down to how the AFC North and the AFC South plays out. Just because I think the Steelers are going to do really well this year, and I think 2 teams out of the South are going to go, so that leaves 2 here, and then just a couple others. So I think the Broncos or the Raiders could. I think that what the difference is going to be is how the division games goes between those two. But we'll see how that plays out. I have the Broncos right now as the 7th seed. So on to the NFC. Like I said earlier, I think the NFC is way closer than it is in my model. I think a lot of these games could be coin flip games. And doing some other research with some other experts, I don't think too many teams were above like 11-5 or 12-4. And I have 2 teams here at 13 wins. But again, these are confidence rankings, so again, we'll just see how we go here. So starting in the NFC North, I had the Vikings at 13-3, ahead of the Packers by a couple games. The Lions at 7-9, and the Bears at 1-15. I think one of the things that I think is the strongest, I think the Vikings have the most well-rounded team. I think their defense is probably the best in the. Hey, Brock, what's going on? I think the Vikings have the best defense and the best offense just as a unit, which will lead to them winning more games. And going to Lambeau isn't as daunting when the fans aren't there. It's just another football game. So I think the Vikings should do the best. Again, Kirk Cousins has to play pretty well, and that defense has to kind of hold up against some of these tougher offenses in the NFC. I like the Packers. I think they should finish second in the division, and I'm pretty sure they're going to make the playoffs again this year. It'll just be up to how that defense holds up this year. I think a lot of the teams in the NFC are kind of pretty close. I think it could go, like I said, it could go either way. I could see the Packers going like 10-6 and making the playoffs. I could see them going 13-3 and making the playoffs. So, so that's kind of where that's at. NFC South, I think, is going to be one of the more interesting divisions. I have the Saints finishing first, the Buccaneers finishing second, the Falcons third, and the Panthers last. I wanted to put the Panthers higher. I like Teddy Bridgewater. I like generally Matt Rule and what he's bringing to the Panthers as a whole. I just think it's going to be a tough sledding in a really competitive NFC. I think they'll probably take some games against their division opponents, just for that reason. I don't know where there's at, and so again, I think the Saints will finish first. I don't think they'll finish at 13-3 because they do have some questions on the defensive side of the football. Again, with the Buccaneers, we don't know what Tom Brady brings. We don't know what all that's going to bring. So I just think they're going to be the next in the division. Now, if for some reason Tom Brady isn't good, they have some injuries, I could see the Falcons finishing second. They have a pretty good roster, but we'll kind of see how that plays out. So NFC East. I think the Cowboys are clearly the best team in the division, and I think the rest of the division is pretty garbage. I have the Eagles finishing second in the division, then the Giants, and then Washington. Do I think Washington's going to go 0-16? Probably not, but it's going to be pretty hard for them to be favored in any game or find a way to win most games. Washington specifically doesn't have any skill position players. They don't have a lot of skilled position players. I don't trust Dwayne Haskins. Ron Rivera is a defensive-minded head coach, and their offense I just don't think is going to score that many points. It's going to be pretty meager at times. So that's why I don't have any confidence in them. Same kind of goes for the Giants and the Eagles. The Eagles don't have any offensive weapons either. They're pretty banged up all the way around. If Carson Wentz goes down again, they're just not the same team. Their defense, they just got rid of like half of their cornerbacks. And so we're not really sure what that means for their defense. Could be good, could be bad. And the Giants, they have, Saquon Barkley. They have, a couple receivers. Their defense seems pretty average. They just signed Logan Ryan. But is Daniel Jones going to win them games? We'll kind of see. I mean, I think the division's going to kind of beat itself up a little bit here. I could see Washington winning a couple division games. I could see, the Giants and the Eagles taking some games from the Cowboys just because it's a division. And you lose games in divisions that you're not supposed to. But generally speaking, I just don't think the Eagles or the Giants are going to be favored in a lot of their games that they're going up, even against some of the AFC teams. So the last division is the NFC West. I think this is going to be one of the best divisions in football. The 49ers and the Seahawks should both make the playoffs outside of something drastic. I think the Rams can be competitive now that they can not worry about Gurley. They can kind of get the ball whoever they need to. And I think the Cardinals are going to be really competitive in a lot of games and just come out on the wrong end. Kyler Murray, Nuke Hopkins, Larry Fitzgerald, and Christian Kirk make for a potent offense. And if Cliff Kingsbury can figure out how to get all that to mesh together, that'd be great. They still have Chandler Jones on the defense. They still have Budda Baker on the defense. They can create some havoc in the NFC. They'll create some upsets that you'll just kind of scratch your head at. But the Seahawks and the 49ers are clearly the best two teams in my opinion. So we'll see how that plays out. So that leads us going into the wild card weekend. So we'll start in the AFC. We have Ravens, Bills, Steelers, Texans, and Titans, Broncos. So again, this is just my model. It's not perfect, and I don't think I would probably guess the Ravens are going to be the 3 seed and not the Steelers. They'll probably switch. Maybe the Texans and Titans will switch, but we'll see. If this is how it plays out, I think I like the Ravens over the Bills. Again, I don't trust Josh Allen as a quarterback. This team seems the Ravens seem way more of a complete team, both on defense and offense, to make a run. And I just don't think the Bills have it on offense, even with the addition of Stephon Diggs. If Josh Allen can't accurately throw the ball, then they're just not going to. The offense isn't going to be that much better. So, Steelers, Texans. Again, this is assuming everybody's healthy. I have a hard time picking against the Texans in this case. This would be a really, really fun matchup. You have the Watt brothers. You have pretty decent front sevens on both sides, but kind of questionable secondaries. So it comes down to who's going to make more plays, Ben Roethlisberger or Deshaun Watson. And I think it comes down to Deshaun Watson, in my opinion. I think he can make more plays outside of the pocket. I think he can do things that Ben Roethlisberger can't do and won't be able to make plays. Big Ben's old. He's aging, I should say, as far as a QB. And I would just expect the Texans to win. Broncos, Titans. This would be a really fascinating game also. I think one of the things it comes down to is can Drew Lock out-duel like Ryan Tannehill? Can the defense stop Derrick Henry? And I think I would give this to the Titans, and only because of Mike Vrabel and the way the defense is set up. I think Mike Vrabel can confuse Drew Lock. I think that I think the Titans are just set up to beat the Broncos. So I would pick the Titans there. Cowboys, Buccaneers. So moving to the NFC, I would probably choose the Bucs here. I think I trust Tom Brady over Dak Prescott. The weapons on the Bucs are just so good. And I think the Cowboys defense is pretty depleted. even with their good front seven, their linebackers are pretty good. I just think the Bucs have too much on either side of the ball, really, to just to overcome anything that the Cowboys are going to do. 49ers Seahawks. I like the 49ers a little bit better. Russell Wilson is pretty clutch. It's kind of hard to pick against Russell. I just like that running. The 49ers offense is just so good. It's so good. So if they can get healthy, I think the 49ers are the better team here. Packers Saints. If this is played in the Dome, which is how it's set up, it's hard to pick against the Saints in the Dome. They just don't lose at home, and I don't like the Packers defense against anything the Saints do, really. Alvin Kamara could just have a field day, just like the Niners did last year in the playoffs. So I think I go Saints there. So AFC Titans Ravens rematch. This is the same exact divisional games as last year. Titans Ravens Chiefs Texans. Titans Ravens. It's hard to not pick the Titans, and it's hard to not pick the Ravens. They're both really, really good teams. But I would hesitate to think that John Harbaugh loses twice in a row, 2 years in a row to the same team. I think he figures out how to make Lamar Jackson a little bit better, a little more successful in the system. And I think that plays into the Ravens' hands a little bit better. I'm going to pick the Chiefs over the Texans. I think Andy Reid coming off a bye is just so good. I know they were spotted 24 points, and the Texans could do that again and score 24 more in the second half. But yeah, I think the Chiefs have the better team here going into that matchup. So Saints 49ers. I think, again, it's hard to pick against the Saints at home, but I think the 49ers have the offense to do it, and I think they have the defense to do it. I think the biggest question for the Saints is, can they stop the 49ers? And that's where I would say I'm not sure. And if I ask the same question, can the 49ers stop the Saints? I would say at least 2 or 3 times a game. You can almost guarantee that their 49ers are going to make a stop on defense. So I think that should be okay for the 49ers. I think they have an advantage there. So I'm going to go with the 49ers. Vikings, Bucks. This is interesting. So like I said, I think the Vikings are a more complete team. But I think if it's coming down to the wire, it's hard to pick against Brady, right? If Brady's in this position, he's going to score points. Can the Vikings offense go toe-to-toe with Brady? Maybe not. I think the Vikings defense is better than the Bucs, but I think I would hesitate to. I'm not confident in Kirk Cousins almost at all in the playoffs, so I think this is where the Vikings run ends. It's a good season for them, but yeah, we'll go for there. Ravens Chiefs. I think this is a pretty touchy game. I think in this model, I predicted the Ravens to beat the Chiefs in the regular season because it was in Baltimore. This is in Kansas City. Again, not that it makes a huge difference. There isn't going to be a crazy number of fans unless something drastic changes. But I still think the Chiefs are the better team than the Ravens. I think it's going to take a pretty miraculous effort from Lamar Jackson. I think if he can prove that he's an MVP almost 2 years in a row, it would take an MVP-like performance to beat the Chiefs, in my opinion. Currently, as it stands right now today, this episode, Lamar Jackson is 0-2 against the Chiefs. He has not beaten them yet. And he actually hasn't even won a playoff game. So I'm giving him a little bit of credit here, but I think this is where the Ravens ends. I think Andy Reid is the better coach out of the two. I think the offense favors the Chiefs. The defense probably favors the Ravens. and the special teams is probably pretty even. So if it comes down to scoring the most points, that's going to favor the Chiefs. If it comes down to a couple defensive stops, the Chiefs defense proved it last year in the playoffs, and they also proved that they can score quite a few points in the playoffs and in bunches when they need to. So in this case, I would favor the Chiefs here. 49ers Buccaneers. This is tough. I like the 49ers offense against this Bucs defense. I also think the 49ers front seven fares pretty well against the Buccaneers offensive line and against their style. I think Tom Brady wants to do similar things that the 49ers want to do, keep the pace at a certain, a steady pace. And I think that sort of steady, slow grinding of a game favors the 49ers. I think this is where Tom Brady's run would end. And I think we're it. If I were to predict, it would be Chiefs 49ers in the Super Bowl, and I'm actually going to pick the 49ers here. I don't think they lose twice. I think their defense is better. I think if I was a betting man, it's just hard to bet for the Chiefs, on the Chiefs, to go back-to-back. As much as I would like it as a Chiefs fan, I think the 49ers are set up to be successful on both sides of the football. So there's my playoff prediction for how it goes. You can see the bracket here if you want to. I'm still going to cheer for the Chiefs. Chiefs fan, I'll still cheer for them, but it's going to be really hard to go back to back. So for that reason, I'm going to pick the 49ers. I think both these teams just match up really well against each other, and it would be another really, really good game. But I think the Chiefs and the 49ers will do it. So with that being said, I'm going to end the podcast here. Like and subscribe, both on YouTube and on Twitch if you feel so led. I will be posting this video onto YouTube. Again, you can find it at the Chief Reaction Podcast. If you have questions or any comments, you can leave them there. You can DM me, email me at thechiefreaction@gmail.com, and we'll get your questions answered in the next episode or in a special mailbag episode we'll do sometime in the future. So with that being said, have a good one, everybody.